And we are back. Another dope episode of Wakanda Whiskey and Blurdom here on Black Comic Lords, our late night happy hour. I'm your host, Paul. With me is my boy, Marc.
What's going on? What's going on? Happy Friday to everybody.
So what's new, man? I haven't talked to you in a minute.
Not much, man. Just feeling a little bit under the weather, so it won't be any whiskey for me tonight. Just water. It starts with a W, so I guess that counts. But not
What?
much. Had some pretty good reads this week. Some real good reads. Real good reads. And you need to go ahead and give. Listen, you need to go ahead and give a spoiler warning.
Oh, man. Go
Because
ahead and
we're
pour
gonna spoil
myself a little
it.
something. Let me finish this bottle of out here. I'll drink for the both of us. I can't drink too much either. I gotta get up early in the morning. Finishing the last of this Oak Hayden. My wife got me out of the blue.
I think this is the first time since I've been doing this that I haven't had a sip of something.
I know
And I
this
think,
is it's got a
yeah,
little discombobulating, my friend. Shout out to Cancelaria Gregazorgic. That's a mouthful.
yeah,
But
it
well,
is.
what's
That
up, the
sounds
people in the chat?
European. That
Give us a
sounds
shout out. Let
European.
us know you're here. What's up? What's going on?
Oh, let me do this.
All right. Juju's in the building. Sup, sir? Bo Biggs in the house. Bo Big, did you email me your address? Because I got something for you.
Give me 1 second. I'm still here, but give me 1 second.
Where's this fool going? Sunny Night, what's up? Welcome to the chat. Oh, that's delicious. All right. So Mark's not drinking, so we're going to jump into our Black Panther Wakanda talk.
Got to give the spoiler.
Man, people should know by now, but all right.
Yeah.
I gotta find the spoiler thing. Crap. Here we go.
Marion, don't look at it. Shut your eyes, Marion. Don't look at it no matter what happens.
Don't look, Marion! Keep your eyes shut!
All right. Basically, if you have not read this week's comics, you might want to cover your ears and eyes if you're sensitive. Gordon Mahan, what's up, man? Amir, what's going on, brother? Oh, snap.
We're getting ready to talk about alternate.
We just got started. We just got started, Amir. We're about to get into the reads of the week, and we don't want to get upset that we spoiled the books for them.
In case they didn't read. Yeah. Are you not
What's
hearing
up,
me?
Eric? Only person who's missing is frustrated fan show. All right, so let's pull up our books of the week from our handy dandy Black Comic Lords pull list. We're not going to do these in. We always start with the Black Panther book first, so let's start with Ultimate Black Panther number 5.
And it was really, really, really good.
It was. It was not an action-packed issue, but it was a story development issue.
It expounded on what we saw. It expounded on what we saw in like issue 2 or 3 when T'Challa was out in the wild. Yeah, it followed up on that thread.
A few covers here. This is the 1 in 25 incentive variant. It's kind of dope. Done by Torrin Clark. This was the Ultimate Black Panther number 5 Boss Logic cover. This is the Clayton Crane
Oh, that's good. I like that one.
Yeah.
That's
All
the
right.
only
So
cover I have. I only have the A cover.
with this, stop sharing that. Why don't you start us off and tell us what you thought about this book?
Well, I mean, I already said this issue was really good. If you've been reading Ultimate Black Panther, which you should have been, from Brian Edward Hill, the gentleman who wrote the last volume of Blade, and he's writing some of the tie-ins to the Blood Hunt series. About issue 2 or 3. Okay, so backing up, real brief synopsis. Obviously, T'Challa is the king of Wakanda. His father was murdered. There are, it looks like twins who are trying basically to start their own nation, or they're attacking Wakanda. They are known as Khonshu and Ra. So T'Challa goes out into the wild to try to find them. He runs across Eric Killmonger and Storm. They then go and find this ancient temple. And in this ancient temple, they find this substance, and they don't talk about that substance. As again, I don't remember which episode. I don't remember what issue it was. It was issue like 2 or 3, and they don't talk about that substance until now. So we went like 2 or 3 issues without developing what that was. And then now, at the end of the last issue, issue number 4, T'Challa has got his crew, his cabal together to basically defend Wakanda and go up against Khonshu and Ra. He's got his sister Shuri, he's got Killmonger and Storm, who are a couple. He's got his wife Okoye, plus him. So it's the 5 of them trying to figure out what's going on, how they can sit up here and defeat these invaders. So they're in this temple studying this substance, and it's like a anti-life type substance. Um, I get the impression that it expedites life, right? Is that how
Yeah,
you?
I wouldn't phrase it as anti-life. I think it's the personification of
It speeds up life,
it
is what it
speeds up,
does.
creates life, what have you.
Once, so they have it in this controlled environment, right? And then they add, I think, some vibranium, and then Storm adds a little of her juice to it, and then they have some plant matter in there. Then the plant matter was
Whoa,
small.
whoa, whoa, whoa. Time. Can we explain what adds juice to it? Because that can go a whole lot of different ways.
I mean, she just hits it with some lightning.
Okay.
That's what I'm talking about. She uses her powers to, you know, get a reaction from the substance. And there was like a little plant, and it gets bigger, then it dies, from entropy, I guess. So
So
while
I have this panel up from the issue. I like this page for a number of reasons. One, it's a summary as to what's going on. It says, this material enhances life. You found it in a temple because that culture worshipped it. They worshipped it because to them, it had the power of God. Tell no one of this. Ra and Khonshu have been silent, Shuri. We need to find them. I need to see the vote of Khan. Now, a couple of things. One, what I loved about this particular issue is you got to see the scientific side of T'Challa again. You got to see T'Challa being super smart, which we haven't seen in a while. Shuri is smart as well. First of all, this ultimate Shuri, in my opinion, is the best version of Shuri I've ever seen, 616 or otherwise, because it's a great combination of the fierce warrior, hothead Shuri from the early Hudlin run and the scientist Shuri that we see in the post MCU run.
which
She's
includes cartoons and stuff. Yeah.
It's not, can she be one or the other? Why can't she be both? There's no reason she can't be both.
Because T'Challa
That makes her a more unique character as well.
I mean, Paul just said that, but T'Challa is the same way. He is known as this fierce fighter, of course, but he's also in Marvel 616 one of the smartest people on the planet. So she's basically somewhat neck and neck with her brother when it comes to skills and abilities, the way Brian Edward Hill is is creating the or writing this character.
Right, right. And I love the fact that we got to see Storm flex her little muscles a bit, her power set. This substance, so this is where the divergence from the 616 universe happens. Because in the 616 universe, we know vibranium came to Earth. A couple pieces broke off here and there. One piece went to like the Savage Land, the other piece went to like Antarctica or someplace like that. And those are like different forms of vibranium. But for the most part, the vast majority chunk of it went to Wakanda. In this universe, this ultimate universe, both the vibranium meteor and this green substance came to Earth at the same time, and they represent polar opposites because T'Challa as he says in the scene, says, "I'm going to go to the Vodacon and find out what it is." And the high priestess of the Vodacon tells him, she goes, "You may not be prepared to hear the answer because your mind is kind of closed and you think it's one or the other, and it may not be what you think it is." But she, in essence, explains that if vibranium is a metal which absorbs energy, it's used to build weapons, it's used to build things. This is the opposite of that. This expends energy and creates life. But it doesn't say whether that's necessarily a good thing, because
it depends on how it's used. Like
it depends on how it's used. Yeah, yeah.
Let me just jump in real briefly, and I apologize.
Go ahead.
Two things. Number one, T'Challa's fade is tight as hell. That is a dope fade that he's rocking right there.
Oh, I forgot to mention, there's a different artist on this.
It looks good.
But he looks good.
Yeah,
it was not a huge drop off in the art at all.
It looks very, very similar. I love this art. Second thing is the Voodoo Khan remind me, and I've mentioned this before from issue 1, a couple of months ago, that they remind me of the priest from 300. For those of you who either read the graphic novel or saw the movie, we know that Leonidas, as king, had to go off to the priests, the E4s, and basically try to get their permission to do some stuff or whatever. So here in this world, we have the king of this nation relying on the spiritual aspect of his nation to try to get advice and guidance from them. And I thought that was kind of cool.
Right. And it kind of goes into the origins of this war. So that was kind of cool. So I mean, there wasn't a lot of action. This was not an action issue, but it was kind of an origin story of sorts of this ore, this substance, and talking about the potential of it for the future. Going back all the way back to 10,000 years to Wakanda's very founding.
I like.
So this is kind of cool.
This image of T'Challa, I don't know if you can pull that one up, but that one's cool. He looks dope, man. Whoever this artist.
Which one?
Is, right here.
His name is Chris Nieto.
Yeah, his art is spectacular. This is really, really, really good art. One of the criticisms, very minor criticisms that we had when it came to Blood Hunt Black Panther #2 is that T'Challa's hairline was jacked up and he's not looking, all as regal as he can. And the way he's portrayed in this one is very regal. This is Khonshu right here. He's the brother, the twin brother of Ra. And for anybody who's been paying attention to Marvel 616 or the MCU, we know that Khonshu is part of the Ennead, aka the Egyptian gods. He is the god of the moon. He's the moon god, and his purview are travelers, specifically travelers at night. And for whatever reason, this individual has taken on that mantra of Khonshu. So we're going to see, I guess, eventually why they did so.
Yeah, so this guy, they decide to take this villager who worships boss and worships the Black Panther. And when Ra and Khonshu was attacking the village, this villager was praying that Black Panther would come save them. So they captured him and decided to make him a double agent for all intents and purposes. They made him a puppet and somehow teleported him to where this green substance is in this in Shuri's lab, and he fights past Shuri and ends up kind of blowing up himself with the substance and stealing it, or I shouldn't say blow it up. He steals the substance and teleports away and brings it back to Ra and Khonshu. So that's kind of where the story ends. And we don't know what Ra and Khonshu have plans for such a substance.
A couple of things that need to be discussed, though, is we got to realize just how somewhat powerful Khonshu as an individual is. A few things. Number one, the guy who we just saw on that page that Paul just had up was, dressed in this armor. He's got these glowing eyes. But before that, he was just a regular guy. He's a farmer, right? Who Paul just mentioned was kidnapped. Khonshu put his hands on this dude's face and transformed him into the warrior that we saw. That's the first
time we saw any powers from these guys, these two guys.
That's the first thing he did. The second thing he did, and it's part 2A and part 2B. 2A is he knew where the substance was, right? In Shuri's lab. 2B, he teleported this dude there, right? How did he know where the substance was? How did he teleport? Was it mysticism or was it mechanical? We don't know yet. This dude who was just a simple farmer is sitting up here taking on somebody who is a skilled combatant and knocking her in her gut. No regular person can do that, right? So he knocks her out. Well, takes her down a little bit, grabs the substance, and then is teleported back. That's the third thing. How did the guy know that the farmer had the substance in order to teleport it back automatically? Or there are a lot of things that were in there that you got to think about.
Just as an aside, again, this artwork is really dope. Really dope. Although Stefano Caselli is on a whole other level. This Chris Nieto guy he's no slouch. This is dope artwork.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean the art was good, and I didn't, until you said something, and I gotta get better. I know of reading who the stuff is each and every time, each and every issue. I know, but I didn't even pay attention. It's so very similar to what has come before that I didn't even think that it wasn't the same person.
And I love to see that Shuri has hands. When's the last time you saw Shuri cold cock somebody?
Well, when she fought Koya a couple of issues ago. Wasn't a
no. When's the last time you saw her knock somebody out in the 616 universe with just her hands?
Oh yeah, no.
It's been a minute.
Yeah. So
anyway,
if I'm gonna give this book a number grade on a scale of 1 to 10, it'd probably get an 8.5 or 9 for me. I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed seeing Khonshu and Ra. Yeah, this is a good story. This is a good book. Let's see what the chats are going
on. Amir says that is a really tight fit.
So let me ask you: do you guys think that Wakandan barbers use vibranium in their clippers? I'm just curious.
Ooh, that's a good question because it would reduce the vibration and maybe give you a cleaner cut, right?
Mm-hmm. I don't know. It's a good question.
And y'all are lords. Peace, y'all. What's up, KJ?
Yeah, I'll go with that. No bigs. Looks like you made
Gordon says it looks like he made the substance smaller when he stole it. Yeah. It was a big, huge ball, and when he touched it to teleport, it turned into a little tiny ball.
So is the big green thing the substance, or is it something inside there? That's the question that I have. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. And my other question is, did any of it remain back in Shuri's lab, or did he take it, all of it? So, I mean, Khonshu is kind of powerful, it looks like.
The panels with Khonshu and the prisoner, I could see that as a TV series scene.
Yeah, all of it. It's very cinematic. The way this whole book has been laid out is very cinematic. I agree with that.
Yeah, his writing's very cinematic.
Yep, using my
His
word.
writing has always been like that. And I guess it helps that he has that background in film and television.
Tenderheaded. That's something that I haven't heard in quite some time. For those people who don't know that phrase, and I'm guessing, Styles, you may be from the South, I don't know, but that term tenderheaded is for those kids who, when you're trying to comb and or cut their hair, are always jumping around because it hurt them because their heads were tender. Yeah, I hadn't seen that in quite some time.
My daughter is actually quite tenderheaded, and she gets it from my wife, who also was, and it's kind of interesting because my wife's mother is like, well, you were the same way when she's doing her hair. It's kind of like revenge, because her daughter's the same way.
Hey, did your father-in-law still live up here?
I beg your pardon?
Did your father-in-law still live up here, the guy I met that time?
Yeah, he still is in Georgia.
Yeah.
Let's see. The green orb is the substance, and I believe he took all of it.
Okay. That makes sense. That you kind of think that, but then how did they get the plant matter inside the thing? And also, how did they transport it from the temple to her lab? See, these are questions that haven't been answered.
I'm sure we'll have to tune in next time. Same Black Panther channel, same Black Panther issue. Something.
I wonder if they'll even discuss it.
Yeah. All right. So that was our Black Panther. Oh, wait, we're not done.
What do you give it? Ho. What do you give it?
I give it the same thing, 8.5 out of 10. I got a book this week. Shout out to my man Otis putting me on. Black Panther, the Wakandan Atlas.
Hey, is that Black Panther raised, or that's just the way it looks? Like, can you feel it?
No, it's just the way it looks. It's just good artwork. I highly recommend this book. I've been talking about, substantive source material books, which I thought were sort of must-haves, such as this book and Black Panther, T'Challa Declassified. Protectors of Wakanda. There was another one. Oh. Just as somewhat of an aside.
Oh, dang.
I just got this book in the mail last week. Storm, Dawn of a Goddess. This is not a graphic novel or trade paperback. This is actually a book.
A novel
with no pictures in it. But it has to do with Storm's origins and early life. And it even includes the story where she met T'Challa. So I'm looking forward to reading this.
Who wrote it?
Written by Tiffany D. Jackson. She is a New York Times bestselling author. So, Storm, Dawn of Goddess. I'm going on vacation in a few weeks. I might take this book with me to read that.
I haven't seen that book anywhere being mentioned. How long has it been out? Do you know?
I think it just came out because I pre-ordered it and I just got it in the mail last week.
Yeah, I haven't seen anybody talking about that.
Finish up with this, the Wakandan Atlas. This is the Walmart edition. I think it's Walmart. Maybe Costco.
There is a book on, because I'm on Walmart right now, and I see that Atlas, but the cover doesn't look like what you just held up.
Correct. This is the limited edition version. There's another version that's black and white, which I have somewhere. I can't find it. Anyway, there's a black and white version. kind of a similar cover, but it's all black and white. This one has the purple, as you can see. This is the limited edition version. And what's cool is that in the back of it, there's here, if you can see, an insert, which inside of this is a map of Wakanda. And there's also bonus material in the back as well. Such as various character bios and stuff like that. But the main part of the book, the sort of essence of the book, is that it goes over all the places in the Black Panther books. Every place that's ever mentioned in the Wakandaverse is talked about in detail. And there's even an index in the back so you can find the references. So if you want to look,
they did that in the Wakanda limited series, they did that as well.
Yeah. So this is one of those must-have books if you're a big-time hardcore Black Panther fan, along with the other ones I mentioned. All right. So we are done with our Black Panther Wakanda talk. We're going to go to a commercial. And when we come back, we get into our reads of the week. I'm stalling because I can't find any of the commercials. I thought Derek had some new ones, but I don't see the new one that I asked him to load. So I will simply play this one.
This week in Black History, Black Comic Lord celebrates the artistry of Dennis Cowan. Dennis Cowan is a comic book artist with a flair for naturalism. If I didn't know any better, I thought the brother lived and breathed in brick-walled alleys, inhaling the pollution of the city streets and exhaling with pictures of agony and anguish. You see, it's hard to describe Mr. Cowan's art, so I'm forced to use a ghetto analogy. Dennis Cowan's art is like fish and grits. It's not first on the menu, but you're glad you spotted it. Visually, it tastes good and your eyes will be filled. Yes, filled, I say, filled with detail. They say the devil is in the details, but Dennis be like, hold my beer, because the brother crafts scenes and faces where it makes you wonder, did he miss anything? Each panel is filled with action, and though pictures cannot physically move, Dennis Cowan shows and proves that they actually can. From Batman to The Question to the Black Panther and others, Dennis Cowan's art speaks like Terminator X speaks with his hands. That makes him a bad man and worthy to be celebrated. Salute the living legend that is Dennis Cowan, a Black history legend. If you like this video, please like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And until next time, peace.
What's good, Comic fam? I'm pretty sure you guys are familiar with Concrete Comics, and I'm also pretty sure you guys are familiar with Freestyle Comics. Well, what if I told you they were partnering together and give you guys an amazing promo code? So listen, here's the deal. You go to any one of these websites, you're gonna save 20% off by using this promo code. Now, if you spend more than $50, you're gonna get free shipping. You can't beat this. And when I talk to you about industry standard or better storylines and art, I mean, you're really not beating Freestyle Comics, and you're definitely not beating Concrete Comics. Listen, this is not a sponsorship. I've literally read all of these books, and they're fire. So stop crying and start buying. Concrete Comics, Freestyle Comics, joining forces. Make sure you use this promo code. You're gonna get 20% off. You spend more than $50, you're gonna get free shipping. We out.
Okay, and we are back. And boom! Bo Biggs blesses us with $10. Bo Biggs, thank you very much, sir. And with that, you're going to get our new Super Chat video.
Show me the money. Yeah! Louder! Show me the money. I need to feel you, Jerry. Show me the money. Jerry, you better yell. Show me the money!
Cuba Gooding Jr.'s Oscar-winning role. I think they said Jamie Foxx tried out for that role, if I'm not mistaken.
Really?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Out the black people everywhere. Hashtag all black superheroes matter. All right. So, not being petty. So now we're at that point of our show where we talk about, well, I can't get anything working here. Oh, my internet is mad slow, y'all. So just bear with me. All right.
So while he's
Having
doing
some
that, basically I'm ready to talk about the reads of the week. And the next read of the week that we have is Blood Hunt #4. If you guys are not reading this, you are missing out. One of the things that I've said in this space many, many, many times is that over in Marvel specifically, um, they have for the past 30, 40, 30 years roughly done what's known as cross-issue storylines, where there's one central story that touches on different titles. So the storyline will have its own book, but then the effects of it will be felt like in the Avengers, Iron Man, Hulk, Thor, Spider-Man, et cetera, right? Over the past 10 to 15 years, it seems like they do it every year. Not all of them have been good. Some of them have been absolutely great. Looking at Civil War, Secret Invasion, those two specifically have been very, 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 very good, right? But some of them just feel like money grabs. Well, this Blood Hunt, listen to me, it is so very good. The main book is written by Jed McKay, and he is knocking it out of the park. Basically, Blade, air quotes, Blade has taken over the planet by having Dark Force users expel their energy, blotting out the sun. So vampires have crawled out of the woodwork and can walk around carte blanche without fear of exploding due to UV rays, right? So in this book, and I know that, this is further on, but we learn about what's going on with Blade. Beforehand, we were thinking that in Blade's own book, he was fighting this entity, and so he had to learn new powers. He went to hell, blah blah blah. So we were thinking when he had to open his mind, that may have made him crazy, or that his body was taken over by some type of spirit or whatever. In this
the
book,
Adana.
the Adana. In this book, it answers that question. But we start off with the Sorcerer Supreme of planet Earth, who is Dr. Victor Strange, who was bitten by Blade and turned into a vampire. His body, his physical body, was turned into a vampire. So Stephen Strange astral projected himself out of his physical body. His physical body is wreaking havoc or crazy or whatever because it has vampire powers, but his spirit is still the same. And so his spirit is wandering around, and he's with his wife Clea. They both go before Victor Von Doom. One of the things that I've said in this space many, many times is that Victor Doom is one of the top 5 sorcerers on planet Earth, and he ain't 5. I would say that the 3 people that you see on the page right now are the 3 most powerful sorcerers on Earth, with Clea being number 1, Strange being number 2, and Doom being number 3. No vampires are in Latveria, where Doom reigns. And in this book, in a couple of pages or down, he talks about why that is. Because he has the foresight, and quite frankly, despite being a despot, he looks after his people. And so he has wards, magical wards, and barriers in place to protect his people from vampiric invasions. And then he talks about that in this book, where Clea and Strange have both come to him for help. And they're not the only ones. Shuri, if you recall, in Blood Hunt Black Panther #2, Shuri did the same thing. Everybody knows that Victor Von Doom is the man. So a lot of people have shown up at his doorstep, either physically or metaphorically, trying to get some assistance.
But the assistance comes with a price. Doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
So,
Later
Victor,
on,
the world's
but
about to come to an end. Dark force everywhere. Can you help us with the dark force? Of course. I am Doom. Of course, I can help you with the dark force. It is child's play. Oh, cool, 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 cool. We're so glad you're not going to be a jerk about the whole thing because this bad guy is taking over. We don't know who it is. It's Varney. What? Yes, obviously, I know it's Varney because I am Doom. Oh, cool, cool, cool. You know about that. Cool, cool, cool. All right, so we're gonna go wrap this up right quick. So come with us and let's go solve this problem and get these vampires out, get rid of Dark Force, and make the world right. Of course, of course, of course. I'll just have my little small payment, and we'll be on our way. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. What? So, a small payment? What are you talking about, Doom? Um, I wish to be Sorcerer Supreme, of course. So that's kind of Doom. And that's literally how this whole conversation goes down.
so let me just
Uh,
interject something real quick. So there was a storyline last year, maybe the year before, where Stephen Strange died. When he actually physically died, his wife, Clea, took over as the Sorcerer Supreme. In book number one, I think the book was called Strange, and it was like a 6 or 7 issue limited series. But in issue number one, Clea dealing with the death of her husband, going through all these emotions. She's in New York in his sanctum sanctorum. Next thing you know, there's a knock at the door. And that knock at the door is Victor Von Doom. He was like, look, sorry for your loss. I know Steven is dead, but look, I came for that number one spot. If you remember Afro Samurai and how everybody was trying to get that number one headband, Victor Von Doom showed up in New York at the Sanctum Sanctorum trying to get that number one headband of being the Sorcerer Supreme. And Clea, being the badass that she is, was like, "No, son, you're not getting this," and drove him off. So, being the Sorcerer Supreme of Earth is a feather that Doom has wanted in his cap for a long time. And quite frankly, I don't really know why, because he's already all powerful when it comes to mysticism and magic. So, I just don't really
because I
understand.
know why. I know why. Because Victor has always been motivated by recognition. He feels like he's never gotten the recognition for being who he is. That's why his beef with Reed Richards is because Reed Richards gets all the Hollywood movies made and he gets all the attention and he gets all the news articles. And he's like, well, what about me? I'm just as smart as Reed Richards. Why don't I get any love? I've got a whole country. Why does T'Challa get all the love? He's always had a Napoleonic complex about himself. That he's able to
It's
do all
ego
these
driven.
things, but isn't getting nearly as much recognition and love. It's a chip on his shoulder.
Yeah, so it's ego driven.
It's ego driven. It's 100%
So you know
ego.
what? He was a peasant, right? So when you
Yeah,
think about it, T'Challa was born into his role. T'Challa was
right,
born into the lap
right.
of luxury. He's a nepo baby, all that other good stuff. You got to respect Doom through the strength of his intellect, will, and just all around might. Made himself into what he was or what he is, and so you got to respect that. But yeah, he's ego driven. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. But
And then,
theoretically, he
so
doesn't need.
what doesn't he need?
He doesn't. I don't know that being the Sorcerer Supreme, just having the title, comes with more power as a sorcerer. So Doom, doesn't necessarily need it because, as I said, he's already a very extremely powerful sorcerer already. So the title does make sense. Just having it. Like if you're
Right.
a multi-billionaire, you don't necessarily need to be president to quote unquote have power, but having that title comes with a lot of perks. So I kind of get that. That kind of makes sense.
So Doom's ahead of the game. He's already worked out who the bad guys are. He knows who the players are. He knows the game plan. He's invented the game plan before Doctor Strange and Clea Strange show up to his doorstep. He even goes to the extent of saying, yeah, I've already got the people that we need. Your students, by the way, Steve, and I stopped by your school and picked them up because you didn't bother. I mean, he's 10 steps ahead of everything.
Yeah. So basically, let me just interject
So
this:
it was
is
cool to
that
see the Strange Academy kids.
in order to okay, so basically, the main thing that Steven wants to do is get rid of the dark force energy that is blanking the world. And Stephen is like, okay, we need to collect a whole bunch of magicians in order to do that. And as Paul just said, well, look, I already got, 6 dudes or 6 people right here. Let's go ahead and get to work. Let me be the Sorcerer Supreme. So he's already figured out who the big bad is, Paul just said, and put the pieces in place to get rid of the dark force energy that is blanketing the earth. So yeah.
And his only price
is to have the title.
I must be Sorcerer Supreme. Wow.
Yeah.
Let's go into the chat real quick. Ravenel Dupree says, I'm glad Blade isn't the primary antagonist. I knew something was up when he started going on those weird monologues and having loud outbursts. That was very out of character for Blade. That's a very good point. Blade is the most cool Marvel character in the world. He doesn't really raise his voice a lot. He just does what he's supposed to do, says his one-liners and be out. He's not much for, exposition.
Real quick, Paul, Rav is a Kane too.
Oh, what's up, brother? Represent to you. 3 more months, man. 3 more months. I really hope T'Challa, Miles Morales, and Blade can get vengeance against Varney and the Blood Coven.
Oh,
man,
they absolutely will.
Can you imagine seeing a final issue where they go up against the big bad, all of them, and seeing the 3 of them lined up with Sam Wilson and Hunter's Moon all going up against the big bad in one big splash page? I'm trying not to blow it up too much on the internets that this is the blackest crossover Marvel's ever done, both in terms of characters and, substantive creators working on these books, but it's kind of cool.
Mm-hmm. It has an extremely very good storyline. Also,
don't let the employees find out.
Yeah. Also in this book, we learn about Varney. Varney is, given his exposition to T'Challa, who is under his thrall after being bitten in issue number 1. And Varney basically says, look, I'm the first Wakandan. No, I'm the first Black Panther. I'm the first vampire. And they are in this this castle that has been transported, or temple, I should say, that has been transported to
the temple of the first blasphemy.
Right, that has been transported to the middle of New York City, and it's an Atlantean temple, so to speak. And this is what was over in Wakanda that T'Challa was looking for after being sent there. So basically, Varney is as villains are wont to do, telling their whole story, telling their whole plan to the good guys, giving them the opportunity to, given the opportunity to thwart their plans, which doesn't make any sense. But while you have that going on, you also have Hunter's Moon and Tigra up in Asgard. And while they are in Asgard, they're trying to free somebody, and they are trying to free Khonshu. Khonshu is a member of the Ennead. The Ennead are the Egyptian gods, also known as the Heliopolians. There was a storyline where Moon Knight, under the direction of Khonshu, took on the mystical properties of a lot of different individuals and was trying to take over planet Earth. He got the power of the Iron Fist. He somehow stole T'Challa. I didn't mean that. He stole Mjolnir, Thor's hammer. He also, what else did he have? He fought T'Challa. What did he get from
He didn't really fight T'Challa. T'Challa was smart.
Didn't fight him. That's right. T'Challa didn't fight him, but he got something from T'Challa from Black Panther. I just don't remember what it was. Do you recall?
He got his submission because he said, now I must fight you. And T'Challa's like, I'm not going to fight you. I submit to your will, can't you?
But what did he, because everybody that he was fighting, he was getting something from them. He got the Iron Fist. He got Mjolnir. What did he get from T'Challa? I don't remember because I haven't read that in some time.
All I remember is him getting his submission of fealty. He bended the knee.
Oh, okay, but I think there was more to it than that. I just don't remember. If anybody who's listening remembers, put it in the chat. So basically, after Moon Knight was defeated, the Asgardians took Khonshu into their custody, and he is now imprisoned in Asgard. So they've come to Asgard to get Khonshu because he is the god of the moon, and a moon, the celestial body, emits light or reflects light, I should say, from the sun. And so that was something that would be very helpful when you're fighting the undead who the sun is anemic to them. So this is one of the things that is being said in the book is like, okay, I don't have Hunter's Moon is like, I don't have a key. Khonshu on the other side of the door is like, look, dude, I don't have any power to let you out. Hunter's Moon is like, that's okay, I got something for you. And he's got Wrecker from the Wrecking Crew. He's got his crowbar. His crowbar has been infused with Asgardian energy because of Loki. Way back in the day, Loki infused several different items of these big burly dudes and made them the Wrecking Crew. You've got Bulldozer, you've got Thunderball, who's the black dude, you've got Pile Driver, and then you got what's the Wrecker. So you have those four guys who are supremely strong. They're not as strong as Thor, but they are really strong. They always give him a hard time. And Wrecker, who's the leader, has this crowbar again that has been infused with Asgardian energy, and he uses that to break open the prison where Khonshu is.
One of the sort of low key scenes. Jed McKay is a great writer.
Yep.
I'm really starting to dig the dude's writing even more than I did before, and I've been following his writing since Avengers. But just subtle little things that I dig seeing. Here is a nice little scene where Blade and T'Challa are talking. So from Blade's or Varney's perspective, T'Challa's is under his thrall. He's made him into a vampire. He can control him. That's what Varney's thinking. So T'Challa's playing along, right? He's trying to pump him for information. So as all villains, super villains who are egomaniacs are, he decides to tell his big plan and tell his origin story, which is classic comic book stuff, right? The evil villain has to explain all of his evil plans so that the hero can thwart them. And it may sound campy, but it's just classic comicdom, which I like the way he did it here, because he's going on and doing his little monologue, and T'Challa just says something simple. I don't understand. He's like, and now with the living Darkhold in my possession, with the blood of a god at hand, and in my place of power, I can complete the ritual. I don't understand. In essence, T'Challa's like, oh, tell me more. So he's trying to get him to open up and share his entire evil plan, which I thought was kind of cool. And of course, he goes ahead and tells it.
Go back to that page. I want to show people something real quick.
I'm on the wrong page now. What do you want? Which page?
The one that you just were on.
Which page?
The one that you were just on.
Yeah, just get a second. It's not automatic. Oh, wrong book. Okay.
Who does that look like to you? I know that's T'Challa, but who real life does that remind you of? Because when I saw it, I know.
My God, are you trying to do a fan cast right now?
No. I'm not fan casting this actor for the role because he would not be a good person for it. But to me, this image reminds me of Method Man.
I don't see it.
You don't see that? Okay. All right, that's fine. But yeah, when I saw that, I'm like, God, why does this dude look like Method Man?
You made me go through all that.
But when Barney said that he had the blood of a god, he means Thor, because he defeated in issue number 1. He defeated the Avengers pretty handily with his blood coven, and so Thor has been imprisoned by Barney, along with the Scarlet Witch and Black Panther. And Black Panther said something that I said from the very, very beginning before this book even came out. Right here, Varney is going into his big plan about trying to absorb all of the dark force energy, which will allow him to, take over the world even more so than what he has done already. But on the next pages, Black Panther talks about the fact that he's not under the thrall of Varney, aka Blade, or Blade, aka Varney anymore. And he specifically says that the heart-shaped herb has been
jumped ahead.
healing him.
You jumped ahead again. All right, you jumped ahead. But go ahead. No, I mean you already let the cat out back. Go ahead. Sorry, I didn't interrupt you.
No, I'm just basically I was saying is that this is what we said before this book even came out. We were talking from the very beginning that the heart-shaped herb would cure T'Challa on top of the power up that he got from his last blood hunt, Black Panther #2. That aside, but the heart-shaped herb would cure him, and that's something that we said. And he specifically says that in this book.
Yeah, our last time you specifically said, I don't understand how T'Challa is so much a vampire when he's got the healing factor from the heart-shaped herb like Wolverine. He should have been able to fight it better. And to Marc's point, that's exactly what T'Challa says in this following issue. He goes, "Do you think Wakanda has never fought vampires? That our gods abandoned us? The heart-shaped herb, it has been fighting my infection, healing me bit by bit." This is actually not a throwaway line. This goes back. This is why Sherilyn Eaton's Black Panther Blood Hunt #2 is such a dope issue, because it does so much storytelling and world building. It talks about the fact that Wakanda's dealt with Varney specifically before, right? It talks about Wakandan gods in that issue, and how they chose to deal with Varney. It also talks about how, Bast chose the people of Wakanda to be her people. And her gift to Wakandans is you could say her gift to Wakandans is having a land with vibranium and the heart-shaped herb in it. And she was the one who was supposed to have led Bast, or I guess Mosey, to the heart-shaped herb in the first place to make him become the very first Black Panther. So he says the heart-shaped herb has been fighting my infection. So in essence, he's acknowledging the return of the gods in Wakanda and that role. So I thought that was kind of cool because it ties into that issue.
Here's a question real quick though. Going back towards the beginning of the book, Dr. Doom was talking about how Varney tried to take over Blade before and failed, but got it right this time. I think he said it was, in the caption, it was like Blade #51 or something like that. Do you have that book, or do you know?
The Blade #5? Yeah, I have it.
No, not 5. I think it was 51, if I'm not mistaken, is what it said.
Are you talking about the book where Varney tried to make Blade into a vampire? I mean, use Blade to become a vessel to come into Earth or what have you?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Blade the Vampire Hunter #5. That's absolutely that issue. So Varney, with the help of, I think it was Lilith, was trying to use Blade's body to become to enter Earth, enter our realm, and become the god I guess he's trying to become. At the end of the day, I mean, long story short, it obviously didn't happen. He defeated Varney, and Varney goes slithering off into the darkness. But what's said by one of the characters is, well, you understand that nobody understands what Varney just did and how he has set his return back up. Like, he set up his return in this defeat. In other words, you will see him again, and you don't understand what just happened in this issue. 30 years later, we now see that in Blood Hunt. So I thought that was kind of dope, the way Marvel dug into its own crate. So whatever editor or writer whether it be Jed McKay or the editors, hats off to you for digging in the crates to come up with to find what was considered a relatively obscure character in what might have been considered a throwaway line and made it a major crossover event.
So this is Blade with the shades and the fro blade.
It's not that far back. This is like Blade right before the movie Blade, if I'm not mistaken. This was 2000. What year was that? Was it the 90s?
The Blade movie was 98.
I'm trying to remember when this issue came out. If it was before or after the movie. I think it was like right before the movie came out, or if it came out right when the movie came out.
So it was Wesley Snipes looking Blade.
I'm trying to figure that out. This came out, yeah. This is before the movie. This is 1994.
Wow.
Yeah, it was Blade with the. Let me find the cover from that series. You can see it. Here's issue number 6. I don't know if you can see that.
Nope. All right, hold on. So like while he's pulling that up, what he just said.
This is like what Blade looked like with the. This is back when he had the red T-shirt, leather jacket, and the sword.
Okay.
That's what he looked like before the movie came out.
Okay. But not with the shades and the mini fro or whatever the case may be.
That was before then. I mean, when he had the green jacket or the brown.
Right. I'm saying that's he wasn't that guy anymore.
No,
just like
Luke
Cage is no longer the sweet Christmas yellow satin shirt with the tiara on. Right. No,
early 90s Blade, not early 70s Blade.
And here's what's interesting is that image that you just showed, speaking of Luke Cage, reminded me of how they, revamped that character. He somewhat looked like that because he had on like a leather jacket and a T-shirt. So the character design for both of them looks somewhat similar to me.
Let's go back to the chat because people have been talking. We haven't been paying attention, unfortunately. All right. Damon Watson says, "Did I miss something? Isn't Dr. Voodoo the Sorcerer Supreme? How can Strange give something a title that isn't his to give?" Doctor Strange took over the title of Sorcerer Supreme again a long time ago.
Okay, so I don't know when Voodoo. I don't know when Dr. Voodoo was the Sorcerer Supreme, but like I said, a couple of years ago, I don't remember the name of the storyline. But when Strange died, he was the Sorcerer Supreme at that point. So
this is way before that.
Right.
This was during the Avengers. This is the Bendis years. Avengers 51, I think, is the issue where Dr. Voodoo becomes the Sorcerer Supreme. Strange has to give up his powers, and a new Sorcerer Supreme has to be chosen. Doctor Strange did something bad, and as a result, he had to forfeit being the Sorcerer Supreme. So a new one had to be chosen, and there's a splash page where I think it's issue 50, where there's a splash page, and they've got all the various sorcerers, the most powerful sorcerers in the Marvel Universe, like a dozen of them, and Dr. Voodoo is in the corner. And ultimately, in 51, he's selected to be Sorcerer Supreme, where he remained so for a while until, what was it, his series? I think it was like his series where his brother comes back and is evil and he's fighting the Avengers. I forgot how Dr. Voodoo stopped being Sorcerer Supreme, but it was a long time ago.
Yeah, and
Strange
has been Sorcerer Supreme for quite some time, and like I said, Clea took over the role for a very brief period of time while her husband was dead.
Gordon says he liked Doom's appearance in this issue.
Yeah, yep, I did too.
Good evening, Robert.
Bro.
Oh, I think we saw this one. Do you guys think what?
No, that image on that dude's profile was that from Philadelphia? That's what that looked like. That looked like Stranger or whatever.
Okay.
Anyway, go ahead.
Do you guys think we will see the Blood Coven again after this event, like the Black Order? or do you think they will be a one and done villain team? I don't see
One
them
and
coming
done.
back. Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't see them. Joker got nothing on this on his crowbar. Monologuing. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so look at that image right there.
What is with you?
What
This
is that
image?
image from? Yeah, what is that image from? That looks very familiar to me.
That's from weird fantasy number 18.
It looks like old boy's artwork from Philadelphia.
No, it is not. It's from a book from 1948, 54. I don't know the year. Jeez, I should know this. But very famous. Oh, Derek Harrison did with Richard Wright did a video on that book. It's a very special book. I suggest that you go to the YouTube page and check it out. Looks like Mr. T to me. You said Method Man. He says Mr. T. But that should be Basil Hayden. All right, Amir's drinking Basil Hayden right now, so he's feeling good. It's good stuff, right? I won't leave you hanging on that. I see meth in that pic now that you bring it up.
I mean, it's the eyebrow. Meth
Sure.
has very unique eyebrows. That's what it is.
Pericles says, now we just need to deal with the parasites who currently run Wakanda. Man, I think the entire parliament needs to be killed. Unalive. Sorry, I didn't mean to use the K word on YouTube.
Correct.
The fact that Drew knew what was up before everyone else shows how OP is. Really.
He's a brilliant dude.
No, it was Marie Laveau who helped Varney in Blade the Vampire Hunter. Thank you, Marie Laveau. Marie Laveau. Facts. Flat top, black leather, red shirt. That was Blade in the 80s and early 90s before the movie.
And that's kind of the way Luke Cage looked.
This was the first Blade solo series that came out after Night Stalkers. Yeah. It's that Spider-Man animation style Blade. That's right. He popped up in an episode of the Spider-Man animated series in that look. Sorry, Marie Laveau, Voodoo Queen. You got to say the whole thing like a Tribe Called Quest. Shout out to everyone repping Morehouse College. Where?
Hey, Damon, you Morehouse? What year?
I think I might have heard of that school. I think a couple of famous people might have gone there.
Oh, but going back to something that was in the book. Hold on. Going back to something that was in the book that T'Challa was talking about when he was being strangled by the Dark Force, or whatever. He specifically said, do you think that this was the first time that we've dealt with vampires? Because it wasn't. And this is something that I've said before. There should have been wards or magical barriers in place to prevent vampires from crossing over into their territory. And I understand what you're saying, that because there's a new administration in power, that all those things went away. But I just don't see it happening like that. I mean, that to me is a plot hole. Because, if Latveria has it, then Wakanda should definitely have it.
He's class of 01. He's young.
Right.
So then, Black Panther, who's again been trying to suck out all the information from Varney, letting him talk and get his ego blowed up and spilling his whole plan, does what he does. Remember, Black Panther's a great strategist. And so he seemingly pulls out a spike to try and stab Varney. And Varney is like, are you serious? Like, what part of all-powerful demon about to be a god did you not understand? Did you really think this was going to stop me? And he's like, no, this wasn't for you, dude. I did this so that I could free my boy, Thor. And moreover, by freeing Thor, bring out my other peeps, the Avengers, who I've called to assemble. So that's pretty much how the story ends. The Avengers showed up on the front door. Thor no longer has a spike through his head, and hilarity will ensue in the next issue.
But he healed himself too, because he had all those spikes, and then in that very last image, he didn't seem like he was suffering from any injuries. So.
Dimitri asked, do you think Miles will play a large role in the takedown of Blade since he's so close to Blade's daughter? That's a good thing. I like seeing Miles and Bloodline's relationship. It's nice seeing the two young people. They're kind of new to being superheroes interact. It's kind of cool. And Miles is kind of being mentored by Peter Parker and Misty Knight, and obviously Bloodline being mentored by her father. And they're kind of trying to live up to those roles. Their relationship is kind of cool.
I don't see that relationship really going anywhere though, because she lives down here in Atlanta. He lives up there in New York, and long distance relationships rarely, if ever, work. So I don't see it long lasting.
She travels the world with her father. Robert Monroe explains the image. It's from EC Comic Story Judgment Day from Weird Fantasy number 18. The year was 1953. I couldn't remember the year, but yes, 1953. Okay. Highly recommend you research that, Mark. It's kind of dope. I'm excited to see what Thor has in store for Blade.
Blade, aka Varney. Yeah, because understand, Varney is a demon, right? Thor is a god. And in the Blood Hunt Black Panther number 2, Varney went up against the Egyptian and Orisha gods and was soundly, it looked like he's about to be defeated in those books. And he obviously was, because he went away for a lot of, a millennia or whatever. So Thor should be able to single-handedly beat this creature before the power up, though. So, yeah.
KJ says Blade and Bloodline being your neighbors sounds good.
Yeah. The fact that, anytime I see Atlanta or Tulsa in a book or a work of fiction, I get excited.
If Blade and Bloodline are hanging out in your neighborhood, I'd be scared. All right. What's our next book?
Well, on this book right here, on a scale of 1 to 10, I give it a 12. This book was great.
Man.
Jay is that dude, Pepe Larraz. The art is spectacular. No complaints. There's nothing about this issue that could have been done better. I really, going back to the very beginning, I really like how Doom is flexing his muscles, and not literally, but figuratively, flexing his muscles, flexing his knowledge, and once again trying to be the Sorcerer Supreme. This book was very, very good. So as I said, on a scale of 1 to 10, I give it a 12. But the next book,
I don't disagree. The pacing, the story, action, exposition.
Honestly, there wasn't much action, just the story.
Yeah, but yeah. I mean, it wasn't. This is not a boring series. This is a good, damn well-written series. And then having on top of that, Pepe Larraz's artwork is just, it's top tier, man. It just doesn't get any better than that. There may be other guys that are just as good, but you're not going to find a bunch of guys that are better than this.
One thing, a lot of times in your comic book store, you may see the books naked like this, but then you may see them in a Mylar cover with a red band. They call those the red band books. You can buy them. Okay. You can buy them. Yeah, obviously you can do whatever the hell you want, but you can buy it if you want. But that's not canon, right? Whatever happens in the red band books, the artwork is more graphic than what's in the regular story. It's not canon, because in issue number 1, I bought that, and I bought a couple of issues of the red bands, one to open, one to keep. And so you see Blade bifurcates Stephen Strange, right? He literally cuts him in half across the middle, separates his waist from his torso from his legs. That's not really what happened. In the regular issue, he stabs him and then bites him or whatever. So that's what's canon. So you can have it. I'm just, if you wanted to save a couple of bucks and were curious about it, you don't necessarily have to have it, unless you just really, really, really want to collect it. So that's that.
Dimitri asks us, any thoughts on how Wolverine may play a role in the victory for the Avengers against Blade? Have you read any of the Blood Hunt Wolverine books? I haven't.
No, not at all.
Not a clue what he's gonna do. He's got claws. I mean, what's he gonna do? Carve people up?
Yeah, I have no idea. So, but the next book that I have been collecting, issue
Hold on, we
number
got some more comments in the chat. Blood Hunt, in my opinion, is what DC versus Vampire should have been.
that was that was kind of mid. That storyline was mid. I bought that. Yeah, yeah. Now the deceased storyline was great, but the vampire one was mid. He did not. So here's my question: where is his soul? Since he has been taken over by Varney, is his soul still inhabiting the body, or is his soul in hell or someplace else? So that's my question.
It's just a possession. It's just a simple possession. Just needs a little exorcism. He still has a soul. Blood Hunt gives me the same vibes as King of Black. Dope ass concept and storyline. Except this execution is far better.
Yeah. I didn't read King and Black. The only thing that I had that we've discussed ad nauseum is Jeffrey Thorne's Black Panther one shot. That's the only thing that I read from that storyline.
I'm truly hoping that this series has some real and lasting impact for the next few years. It would make no sense to have an event this big and then everyone act like it didn't happen in 2 years. I agree.
That's what happens, with the exception of Civil War and Secret Invasion. That's kind of what happens with all these cross-issue storylines. There was a storyline about 7-8 years ago called Chaos, right? That was Hercules driven or Hercules centric.
It's called Chaos War.
Chaos War. I'm sorry. Thank you. Yes, Chaos War. You don't hear nothing about that anymore. Fear.
In that Chaos War in that Chaos War series is the first time you ever see Bast ever die. In an issue called Chaos War, God's War, in which all the gods fight together as like an Avengers team.
Yeah, I'll have to look to see if I have that particular issue. But there was the Fear itself storyline, which was Thor centric. You had the Siege storyline, which also was Thor centric. You don't really hear about the stuff that occurred in those books anymore, and they were less than a decade ago. The only thing that I really want to see when it comes to this storyline is the power up that Black Panther has been getting. That's kind of what I want to see.
Now, thank you that's a good segue. So this is what I wanted to talk about. The artist for what do you call this? Give me a second. Oh man, seriously? My computer's acting up again. God damn it. Yeah, it's not going to work. All right. So the artist for Black Panther Blood Hunt released some art for the upcoming issue. Let's see if I can bring it up here. Fareed Karami.
Oops, sorry.
Can you all see this? So let me see if I can make it bigger. I can't. In essence, it says, here's T'Challa. He's invading Atlantis, and Atlanteans are like, you shouldn't be here, Wakandan. And he's like, yo, look, I'm not here to try and invade your little pissant country. I'm here for the relic, this ancient relic that used to be in Wakanda. Now, here's an interesting part that's kind of a throwaway line. He says this relic, which is the temple of the first blasphemy, right? And that's another side point. Mark, this Black Panther Blood Hunt series takes place obviously before Blood Hunt 4 because the temple is now in New York. So this story still takes place before Blood Hunt 4.
That makes sense.
So he says, look, I'm not here to invade Atlantis. I don't care about you people. But you have a temple here that used to be in Wakanda prior to the flood, and then now it's in Atlantis, is kind of the idea. Because if you go back to the last Black Panther issue, they talk about how Atlantis and Wakanda, there's kind of been this illusion. There was some interaction between Wakanda and Atlantis back in the ancient days. Varney is from Atlantis, from ancient Atlantis. We're talking pre-flood Atlantis, what many historians typically refer to as Lemuria. In fact, Atlanteans at one point were called Lemurians. But there is some interaction with Wakanda back then. And what T'Challa is saying is that the temple was on Wakandan soil, but after the flood, it's now been moved to, or somehow it was in Wakanda, but now it's in Atlantis. I don't know if that means Wakanda was flooded and it went to there or was moved or something. But now it's in Atlantis.
Here's what doesn't make sense to me. Because, T'Challa, Bast, and the sister, what's the sister's name? The goddess, the river goddess?
Anuket.
They were in Wakanda. Wakanda is a Central African nation. So they were in Wakanda. They went in like a river or something, and now they are dealing with Wakandans. That doesn't make sense to me. It gives the impression that there are Atlanteans under any body of water. So, for example, here in Georgia, if I go up to Lake Lanier, Georgia, as we all know, for the most part, Atlanta specifically, is not around any oceans. The only thing that we have are a couple of lakes and stuff. And so if we go into the water in Lake Lanier, are we going to see Atlanteans? So this didn't make sense to me, how they are underwater, but then all of a sudden in Atlantis or Atlantis adjacent territory. Unless
the river leads out into the ocean.
But again, they are a landlocked nation, and they would have to travel for a very, very long time to even get to the ocean.
Yeah, but they never talked about how long they were swimming. Not to mention, T'Challa got the power up from Anuket. So it could be like Aquaman. Aquaman can swim like as fast as Superman can fly in some instances, underwater. So he can go super speed underwater. So if Anuket has those type of water abilities, she might have passed it on to T'Challa, which leads to my next thing. T'Challa has a power up from Anuket. He's being attacked by the Atlanteans, and so all of a sudden he's got these electric abilities. Now pause. I know what you guys are gonna say, right? Oh no, not another black superhero with electrical abilities. Well, I mean, sure.
And Sherilyn Eaton talks about that. Sherilyn Eaton talks about that too. Did you see that tweet of hers?
Yeah, I did.
I thought that was funny.
It's at least a little temporary power, because he says, right, I still feel a little bit of the power from the kiss I got from Anuket. And he talks even further, which is kind of a cool little foreshadowing. He's like, the kiss I'm still looking forward to, the kiss that I missed and I still long for again, but I don't have time to deal with tales of the heart right now. In other words, he's still feeling a little something about that kiss with Anuket. It was a little bit more than simply, I'm trying to get this power up from you. He felt a little something. I mean, T'Challa's been single for a long time.
So, basically, when Paul just said a second ago, not another, there is a Black Lightning trope when it comes to superheroes, to Black superheroes. And I just mentioned Black Lightning. Over in DC, you have the character of Black Lightning, who obviously shoots lightning. Over with the Super Friends, they had Black Vulcan, who was basically Black Lightning, but they, for whatever reason, couldn't use that character. You have Miles Morales, electrical powers. Of course, you have Storm with her electrical powers, and then you have Static, aka Static Shock. So that's 5 separate Black superheroes with very similar abilities, specifically lightning.
Those are just very prominent Black superheroes, but in the grand scheme of things, there's no more so really than any other. I mean, there's lots of superheroes that have electrical abilities. Just that those are the most prominent ones that we have.
Right. And all of their abilities are natural abilities. And so as we're talking, I'm thinking, what white characters have lightning powers? Obviously in Marvel, you have Electro, but his are scientific, mechanical based. Then you have Thor, who has the power of lightning because he's the god of lightning. Then you have Zeus. Then you have I can't remember the character's name, but he's the Celtic god who showed up in Thor 350 or something a long, long time ago, and never seen him again. Those are the only ones that I can think of off the top of my head who have that ability. It's not something that you see a lot when it comes
Now,
to
Robert
how.
Monroe asked a good question. I wonder if Marvel saw the success of Philadelphia and decided to do their own spin on vampires.
I mean,
I don't know.
vampires have been around forever, just like zombies. So I don't necessarily think that they're trying to piggyback off of the success of Rodney Barnes. I just think that, put an idea or concept in a bucket, spin it, and see what comes out on top. So
Azor Beast asks, is the flood the flood? I don't know. I don't want to take the biblical sense of the flood, but we know from, ancient myths that, Atlantis was this super advanced society that at some point there was some huge flood or a volcanic eruption. I don't know what it was,
gotta
but
be
the
just a
city ended
natural
up
cataclysm that drew
falling
big
into the
water.
sea.
Yeah.
And so you had this ancient super city fall into the sea and become an underground city. And the inhabitants, I guess, became water breathers.
Amphibious, yeah. What's interesting, that same storyline over in DC, because they also have Atlantis. In the animated series, Young Justice, the Atlanteans were the descendants of Vandal Savage. And that storyline was written some of that storyline was written by Kevin Greavious. And it was so very well done. Their first immortal king was Arian, who was a descendant of Vandal Savage, and he was a sorcerer king before the city was driven underwater. So it's a very
Now, here's,
interesting.
here's, here's an interesting thing in this interaction here between T'Challa and the Atlanteans is, there's an exchange between T'Challa and the head Atlantean security guard guy. And he goes, I don't believe, you're here under these, I think you're here for pretextual reasons, T'Challa. And he goes, and T'Challa retorts with, I'm here to see this city you guys don't care about, which, you claim is yours, even though it was in Wakanda. And I can't believe that you guys think that you could build a city like that. And then the retort is something along the lines of, I can't believe the Atlanteans believe they could build a vibranium gate. So there's a vibranium gate, perhaps for transport, that somehow in Wakanda that the Atlanteans have their own myths that they're the ones who created it, which means, foreshadowing, Atlanteans may have had exposure to vibranium. So when we talk about the idea that ancient Atlantis used to be on land and fell into the sea, but we also talk about the fact that pure vibranium, mutates humans. So if ancient Atlantis had access to vibranium for some reason, because it was in that same region, I don't know how, but somehow the Atlanteans had access to vibranium. If they did, to build this gate, and Atlantis falls into the sea and this vibranium somehow mutates them, perhaps that's how they're able to breathe underwater. So that might be an interesting storyline to explore.
But that goes back to what I was saying a moment ago, when practically every map that we see about Atlantis, about Wakanda, and we discussed this last time. Wakanda is a landlocked nation in the middle of Africa. So even if Atlantis was on the African continent and fell into the sea, it would be thousands of miles from Wakanda. So I just don't.
Well, I don't necessarily. I'm not trying to argue that Atlantis was in Africa. I think all they said was the temple was in Wakanda at one point. The temple itself could have been moved, as evidenced by the fact that the temple is now in New York. It's moved to New York, so the temple can obviously move. So I don't think it's a matter of Atlantis being in Africa.
Like the black. I don't know I don't remember what they call it, but a crow the castle in Krull.
The castle that moves every day. Yeah, yeah. Damn, that's taking me back, man.
Those who don't know, Krull was a brilliant movie in 1982. Maybe
84.
was 84?
84, 1984.
84 with a very young Liam Neeson in it. He was not the star, he was a background character, but that movie was brilliant. It was robbed of Oscars consideration. It was one of the greatest movies ever. Love Krull. What are the
I
comments?
I still want a glaive to this day to add to my collection.
Yeah. What are the comments?
Dimitri says, "How dope is the Moon Knight army at the end of Blood Hunt?" Yeah, we skipped over that.
Yeah.
At the end of Blood Hunt, Khonshu is released by Hunter's Moon Tigra and the Wrecker using his Asgardian crowbar to open up the God Gate in Asgard to let Khonshu out, where he's been imprisoned for quite some time now. And first thing Khonshu does is resurrect his Moon Knight army of dead Moon Knights, including his favorite son, Marc Spector, who's been dead for the last 6 months.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting.
And maybe they are playing fast and loose with the geography, or maybe Wakanda in the past was a larger empire stretching to the oceans.
Here's the thing with that, though. Wakanda has never been conquered up until recently. So I wouldn't see them losing territory to another nation because they were so technologically advanced thanks to vibranium. So I don't see that happening.
Unless they just...
I do agree that they're playing fast and loose, probably thinking that nobody's going to think about this type of stuff. So
nobody stays up on a Friday night and drinks liquor and just talks for hours about comic books and breaks them down like we do. I took it as T'Challa was brought there by aquatic gods, so he brought him there from that body of water. That's what I just said. I think Etiquette just helped him get there. I think we're overthinking it. Perrin in a Russian Avengers, I think, have electric.
He's basically the Thor analog. So you're absolutely right, Chris. Absolutely.
Krull, one of my faves.
Right. So listen, if anybody in the chat, if you can think of it real quick, what was that Celtic god's name who showed up in Thor? I don't remember the issue, but he also had lightning powers. I'm gonna try to find it myself. But if you know, tell me what that guy's name is.
Nobody cares. The only way to resolve the geographical question he raises to suggest the borders Wakanda and Atlantis shifted over the years, resolving that could yield an interesting story as well. I really don't think they're trying to intimate that Wakanda and Atlanta were close to each other. I think they interacted with each other. I don't necessarily think they were close to each other. And I think probably Wakanda's rivers, of which there's quite a few, one of those tributaries may lead to the ocean, which gives them the access. And at least that's kind of what the illusion was in the MCU movie, which was terrible. Wakanda Forever.
I wouldn't know.
Which made no sense because the entire book, I don't want to talk about it. That movie was just not good. Okay. So that was Blood Hunt 4.
Yeah. It was
and finally, we have Midnight Suns number 2. If you blinked, this book would have been over as soon as you read it.
Yeah.
Not a lot of stuff happened in this book.
So basically you have a group of individuals, and I'm horrible with names, but you have like 3 individuals who are friends and family, but not family, but friends or acquaintances, associates of Blade.
Danny Ketch, the current Ghost Rider. You have Johnny Blaze, the former Ghost Rider, who still has mystical weapons. He has hellfire guns and stuff like that. You have Victoria Montesi, who is a Dark Force user, has a lot of power, access to Darkhold, has used the Darkhold. You've got Tulip, which is Blade's paramour girl, who has just kind of a mercenary type chick. And you have obviously Blade.
Right. So, but Blade is not part of the Midnight Suns right now because he's the big bad. But basically, you have these people
Lilith, I think, is in this.
Lilith, yeah. So basically, you have this group of individuals who know know that Blade has turned bad allegedly, so they're getting ready to try to go fight him. But they all have a premonition or a vision in their dream, and they decide to go to Chicago to follow their dream because that was what was in their dream was a hospital. So they show up at this hospital. There's a vampire who pulls his face off, is about to attack this nurse. Before they do that, before the vampire is able to, one of the Ghost Riders shows up, gives them the penance stare. They save her. Blade shows up, breaks through a window, attacks them for a very brief minute, and then leaves. So they realize that, look, Blade wants us to follow him. We're not going to do that. We're here for a reason. And now we're trying to figure it out. They see a big old pentagram on the floor, which looks like it may very well be a mystical gateway to hell. And that's pretty much the end of the book. This issue, if I'm going to give it a grade on 1 to 10, I'd give it a 5. This was, as Paul said, and for those of you who watch anime, this was what would be known as a filler issue. Nothing really significant happened in this book.
There was one and only one significant thing that happened, and it was this. We had, I guess if you had read this before Blood Hunt, you would have realized, or, Black Panther Blood Hunt for that matter, this was where the Blade reveals that he's not Blade.
Right.
Blade, stop. And he's like, Blade isn't here. Yeah. I am not Blade. I'm Varney. That's pretty much the highlight of the book.
But we already knew that from, I read the original Blood Hunt number 4.
Yeah, at this point, if you've been following Blood Hunt, this scene was made anticlimactic by the fact that of the last couple issues of this crossover series. Yeah. So I'm hoping that this was filler because the next issue is going to be absolute fire because Brian Edward Hill is a fantastic writer and he does not miss.
Yeah. I'm still
going back to the chat. They answered your question.
Lear
is the Celtic god who teamed with Thor.
Yep.
Was it Tyrannus, the Celtic god of lightning?
No, it was Lear. It was Lear. I'm just trying to figure out what issue that is in.
Being that Miles is from the Ultimate Universe, how has his presence affected the 616? Being that Miles is from the Ultimate, how has his presence affected the 616 Morales? Oh, well, the 616 Morales was actually a bad guy. By the name of, why am I drawing a blank? I'm looking at his face and I can't remember his name. Ultimatum? Something like that. Ultimatum, maybe. I don't remember the dude's name, but it's interesting. Miles is half black, half Puerto Rican. This 616 Miles, who's a villain, is actually mostly, I don't know if he's black at all. He's just like pure Puerto Rican, or at least he looks more Puerto Rican than he does black. But he's a bad guy. He's one of Miles. No, it's not Selim. It's a different guy. I can't remember his name. I'm sorry. All right. We have one final book I wanted to talk about. We did a bunch of Marvel books. It would be not cool to not mention an indie book that dropped this week. Antagonist dropped this week as well. I haven't gotten it yet because it's being mailed to me, so I apologize. I can't give you a review on that book, but I know the series is fire. That's all I can tell you. I don't know what the latest issue happened. What happened in the latest issue? But there is this. Anansi Boys. This is a adaptation of Neil Gaiman's book. And it's written by Marc Bernardine, co-written, and artwork by Sean Martinborough, who most recently is the writer on the Red Hood series with Sanford Green. Fantastic series, by the way. You guys should be picking that up. All right, so what is this series about? So you see this guy on the cover. His name is Charlie Nancy. When he's In his youth, he was called Fat Charlie by his own father, who you see in the background, a dude that looks like Steve Harvey. Very much so looks like Steve Harvey. But Charlie hates his father. He's an American, but he lives in England where he's engaged to marry a British woman, a woman from the UK, where he now lives. They're preparing for their wedding. And Charlie and his future bride are talking, and she's like, my dad died when I was 15. I'd love for your father to come to our wedding and walk me down the aisle. And he's like, well, I don't get along with my father. We really haven't had a relationship in like 20 years. I haven't seen him since my mother died 7 years ago. And she's like, well, this really means a lot to me. I really like for you to establish a relationship. So he gets a phone call all of a sudden, and as it turns out, his dad died suddenly. Now, the reason he doesn't like his dad used to make fun of him, called him Fat Charlie when he was a kid, and even though he wasn't particularly fat. And he was a lecherous, just sophomoric, just over the top type guy. He embarrassed him at every turn. He's a philanderer, etc. Just not the best father figure by all accounts. But he was also very well loved. And the father was living in Florida, oddly enough, where I live. In Daytona Beach, was at a karaoke bar, flirting with girls, singing in a karaoke bar, and had a heart attack and died. So Charlie finds this out from a family friend and flies to Florida from England to go to the funeral. And he's talking to the family friend, Mrs. Diggler, I think her name is. And he's like, they're talking about his relationship with his father and why he doesn't like his father. He's like, he was a terrible dad. He's like, yeah. She was like, yeah, I agree. He was a terrible father, but he was a good guy. And people liked him. And of course he was a terrible father. And at the very last page, she goes, because he was a god. And he's like, what? And that's where it ends. So his father is the god Anansi. And that's pretty much the whole book there. And I guess you find out more about the background of the father next issue. I'm not doing the summary of this book justice. I'm just summarizing the basic plot. But this is a dope book, and the art is spectacular. I like Sean Martinborough's art. It's appropriate for this book, which got kind of a noir type of imagery. It's a little bit of humor in the book as well. As the first funeral scene he goes to is very funny. But it's not like it's more of a dark comedy type thing than a ha-ha funny book. I enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to the next issue. There's a few covers. This is, I think, the cover by Sean Martinborough. This cover is by the GOAT, Dennis Cowan. This is the father singing in the karaoke bar before he died. And then there is, I believe, a cover by Mr. Mac. Why can't I pull it up? All right, so the computer's acting up and saying it doesn't want to display the cover. But it's this one.
That's dope.
Done by David Mack. Yeah. So I recommend the book. On a scale of 1 to 10, I give the first issue a 9 out of 10.
Okay, so I'm going to digress, but kind of tie into what you just were talking about and some of the stuff that we've said. A few minutes ago, I mentioned the Celtic god Lear, thanks to, I think it was Pericles who gave me that name. Lear showed up in Thor number 386, 396, something like that. I don't recall his ever making another appearance. You're mentioning Anansi, who is an Orishan god, a trickster god, much like Loki over in Nordic myth. We know that in Blood Hunt Black Panther number 2.
Actually, he's actually Anansi's a Yoruba god. So he's been part of the
Yoruba would
Vodou
be part. The
gods.
Yoruba uh, culture worship the Orishas. But
No,
speaking of
no, that's not entire. All right, go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
speaking of gods, I was talking with Chillmonger. He's probably not watching today, but Chill is a guy who has his own YouTube channel, and we were talking about Blood Hunt, Black Panther, Blood Hunt. Excuse me, Blood Hunt, Black Panther #2. And he is not impressed with the book, and he's not enamored with the idea of these gods being introduced because nothing will happen with them. And I, I
No,
understand
hold on. Pause. What does nothing will happen with them mean?
with him, it means they will be a one-off. We will see them here, other than Khonshu and Bass specifically, who have already have a footprint in Marvel Comics. Other than those two, we will not see these pantheons or those specific gods again. And so it makes me, again, think about Lear and the Celtic gods. And I'm wondering, I'm just kind of brainstorming, talking out loud right now. But
I mean,
I
how would there's no way you could possibly tell the future and know if they're ever going to come up again. The same argument can be made when Coates introduced the Orisha in his run. People be like, "Oh, well, that issue's not significant because you'll never see the Orisha again," and yet the Orisha are back again in this series.
okay, that's
So that's
you're
I don't.
talking you're talking to him. That's him. That's him saying that.
Yeah,
So I just what I was getting at is I wish this is wishful thinking on my part, and I understand his point, but what I wish is that we did in fact have more stories about these pantheons because
absolutely.
we have the Olympians. The Olympians, especially with Hercules, make appearances regularly, typically in either Thor, the Avengers, the Eternals, um, and Hercules when he has a book. They make their appearance. We saw Lear. We see other godlike entities who rarely, if ever, make appearances. And I kind of wish what Cheryl Lynn Eaton has started to develop. And she only has one more issue to go, but I really wish we would see that because I think that would kind of be kind of cool when we
So
have
what you're saying is Shirley Eaton needs a regular series so she can cook.
Well, we already know that she needs a regular series, and quite frankly, I wouldn't mind her being the main writer on an ongoing Black Panther series after the first two issues that we've seen.
Absolutely.
But I really do wish that we could see more of the Ennead and the Orishas outside of Khonshu, who always makes an appearance over in Moon Knight, and Bast, who shows up periodically in Black Panther. So yeah.
Get her another series ASAP. Absolutely.
A lot of people on Twitters have been saying that because she has knocked it out of the park.
She really has. Between her and Brian Edward Hill, I'd be happy with either one of them being the next Black Panther writer.
Yeah, absolutely.
Jack Hart asked us favorite cosplay, bros.
I don't know. Are you asking us who our favorite cosplayer is, or what our
favorite cosplay we've done?
I don't understand that question, Jack. Yeah. What are the comments we got?
Damon Watson says it would be amazing to see Samity, Legba, Shango, and Ogun be somehow introduced into Marvel. If I correctly get your point, I guess I would love that. Well, they have been in various forms, Damon. I talked about that in our last episode. If you get a book called Thor and Hercules, the Encyclopedia Mythologica, all of those characters you just mentioned have been introduced in the Marvel Universe at some point or other. But now, has what's the term Killmonger said? Something happened to them. What was it? What did you say he said?
I don't recall what I said. But basically,
the term they're using, nothing happens to them, or what have you. Has anything happened beyond that? It's been a while. It's definitely been a while. I mean, that's a fair assessment when it comes to the big two. They'll introduce a dope character, and then they'll put them on a shelf and you never see them again. But each one of these people that you've mentioned have been introduced in the Marvel universe
So
already.
here's the thing, though, going back off what Damon is talking about. So Thor is the Norse god of thunder and lightning. He has his own book. He's a member of the Avengers. Why cannot Shango be introduced in a limited series and then have him pop up
I've
here
been
and
saying
there?
that literally for years that Shango should have been a bigger character, because if Thor's out there, Shango's right up there with Thor.
Right, right, or any number of the pantheon, the African pantheons. You know, a
Yeah.
lot of those gods showed up. You know, I've mentioned it before, and I want to say it was the Thor annual number 10. I could be wrong about that, but they showed up during that period, and also in the early in the like 298 to 303, somewhere in there, where the Celestials were coming to Earth and the Sky Fathers got together to try to battle the Celestials. So that's when they've typically shown up. So, but I would like to see more of the pantheons, the different pantheons, because there are more than just the white folks out there.
Kay Sakuma says, I want more West African deities and comics within and outside of Marvel. Got Akugan as my wallpaper right now. Yeah. Yeah. Make sure you guys pre-order and support Akugan by Muyela Ayodele and Doton Akande. Really dope series. Really dope series.
2 issues. Yeah.
Huh?
That's it. 2 issues in, and that's been good. Yeah. But I mean, they really should. I mean, there is no logical reason not to have, especially Shango, show up somewhere. Like, they're there in the universe. Do something with them. You know, we see Ares all the time before he got ripped.
You know how many Marvel characters that statement could be applied to?
Well, I know, but we're talking about these ones specifically because it's the subject we're on. But you know, we show Ares pop up. You know, yeah, that's something that should be done. That is really something that should be done. So if you guys want to go on a letter writing campaign and hit up Marvel and say, hey, you know, show more of these African gods, go
on social media and tag Marvel on this stuff.
Yeah.
They do kind of sort of listen. I'm not gonna, you know, I just find it coincidental that certain things that we bitched about on this space suddenly come into fruition like a year later. So I do think to some degree they listen to fans. You just kind of gotta hit them up, tag them on this stuff, make it go viral. So a lot of these editors, I think, are kind of living in a bubble, and they don't really have a good sense of what fans actually are interested in. And and I just think, honestly, I think like any big corporation, they're probably doing things based on algorithms rather than what people actually do and think. And they know that Superman and Spider-Man and Batman, you know, and Wolverine have hit at these points, and they just want to do more of the same. So that's why they keep regurgitating the same characters, the same storylines, because the algorithm tells them this is what made us money, so this is what we got to keep doing, rather than have fresh new characters and have fresh stories. Because when, you know, Crisis on Infinite Earths first dropped, that was an original story. When Marvel Superhero Wars first dropped, that was an original story. When Bendis did Civil War, that was an original story. You know, and all these characters that we love today that are big characters, they all dropped at one point, and they were original characters. The big two just are lazy at this point. They want to go with what's tried and true, and they don't want to focus on. Well, I don't want to say it's not as simple as that. I think it's also a matter of intellectual property, licensing. You know, there's only so many characters that they have licensed successfully, right? When we're talking licensing, we're talking cartoons, lunchboxes, Halloween costumes, action figures, toys. There's only so many properties they have licensed that are successful. They've promoted in that regard, that companies have supported. And as a result, they're focusing on where they're making their money because these are businesses. We can say, oh, you got to do it for the culture. These are businesses. As much as we want them to do things for the fans, at the end of the day, they're businesses. And the business part of it is we have license agreements with these companies, Hasbro for toys, Disney for cartoons, etc. And we have corporate we have policies. We have well, am I drawing a blank on this because it's late Friday night? We have contracts with these companies to license these properties. That's where we're making the majority of not these buying the comics. There's only so many comics that how much money these comics generate. It's from licensing the properties. That's where they make their real money. So until that changes, which isn't going to change anytime soon, all of your complaints are heard, but dollars talk at the end of the day.
Here's the thing: companies are risk adverse because
Yeah.
investing in something that is untested may fail and it costs money. Paul a moment ago mentioned Spider-Man. Understand that Spider-Man is ubiquitous because ever since his creation, he has been put forth in the public eye after, Amazing Fantasy, whatever it was, dropped. There has been a Spider-Man cartoon like every decade from the 60s up until now. There is no logical reason why T'Challa, as an example, should not have had that same treatment. And so, we have to vote with our dollars. But because Spider-Man is put out, they think that that is the only character in their stable who is successful because people eat it up. But they're so afraid to take a gamble on others that they won't do so. After the 2018 Black Panther movie, that would have been a prime time for them to strike with an animated series. There is no logical, it costs a lot less than a damn movie. There is no reason why they should not have invested in a 20 episode Black Panther series. We understand that not Avengers Assemble, yeah, Avengers Assemble season 5 was basically a Black Panther season. But it should have been an ongoing thing so he could be part of the cultural zeitgeist and hit while the irons were hot after the 2018 movie. But again, as I said, they're risk averse. It's a shame.
Robert Monroe Jr. said, I wonder if the difference is that the Orisha are actually worshipped today, whereas nobody is worshiping the European deities anymore. I think Muriel Ayodele gave me the impression that people still do worship those gods. KJ Sakuma says the demand for a Shango series going viral would be great news, but I'll continue to support Orisha or Yoruba based comics. Absolutely. By the way, check out Unique Studios just dropped a book called The Asiri, a sci-fi series that's based on Afrofuturism. What happens if you're dreaming of a space of Star Wars with Black people from Africa? Kind of a dope concept. So check out Asiri, which just is it's a graphic novel that they just dropped this week. So I think that's everything that we. Oh wait, you had the television show that you want to talk about.
Yeah. Yeah. So
we're going to what you watching.
So there's nothing current. When I say current, that is ongoing right now. Like I'm behind on House of the Dragon, bored to tears from The Acolyte, so I'm behind on that. The Boys is spectacular. I know I didn't mention this to you, Paul, but The Boys is absolutely spectacular.
Yeah, I've been watching Boys.
Very, very good. Giancarlo Esposito made an appearance in the latest episode. Highly recommend The Boys. But there is an old series called is it The Fades or The Shades? I forget right now.
The Fades.
The Fades. Okay.
The Fades.
Right. So it's an English show from about 2010, 2011. And you will see some very, very familiar faces in the show. Namely, the white dude on the right, his name is Ian Day something. I can't remember the whole thing. And to his far left is Daniel Kaluuya. This show to me is very good. Basically, Paul mentioned earlier when he and I were talking, it is very Buffy-esque, where they're not fighting. I guess they kind of are vampires. Basically, the whole premise of the show is that when a person dies and they don't ascend or descend, their spirit wanders planet Earth. Well, a particular spirit somehow got blood in his mouth. And when he got blood in his mouth, it made him more solid. It made him more flesh and blood. So now he wants to live again and he's going around killing people, eating their flesh so he can be flesh and blood. Well, the actor who plays the main bad guy is Gendry from Game of Thrones. So you'll definitely recognize him. You recognize Daniel Kaluuya. Ian, the guy on the right, if you watched Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., you would recognize him as well, that he's Fitz. Um, Natalie Dormer, who played Marjorie Tyrell, is in this series. It's only about 6 episodes. But what I like about this show so much is Daniel Kaluuya's performance. And the reason why is this. The first time I recall seeing him in anything was in Get Out, right? He may have appeared in something here and there, but Get Out is my first real introduction to him as an actor. Everything that I've seen him in since then, he's been a rather cool, stoic type character, right? That's what he's played. In this role, his character reminds me as a young lad, somebody who's nerdy, who's awkward, very, very well done. Like he's unlike anything that you have seen him to date play. Highly recommend. It's a very good story. I enjoy it. It's on Amazon Prime, 6 episodes. Highly recommend the Fades.
Yeah, I watched the first episode based on your recommendation. I enjoyed it. The Buffy the versus Vampire analogy was I think kind of spot on in the sense of the genre. It's not like witty like Buffy was. It's not like got a whole bunch of one-liners and rock music sort of soundtrack. But the concept of teenagers fighting the occult, and there's one member, the guy on the right who played Fritz in this Shield series, having an ability to see the dead, which sort of sets him apart from the rest of society. That is where you have the likeness to Buffy.
And he's got powers.
Um,
He's got powers
huh?
other than fighting. He has powers other than fighting. He's got supernatural powers.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
Very good. And there's another face that you'll see in there. If you ever watched the movie Snatch, the actor from the movie Snatch, who was part of that group of guys who was trying to kidnap Benicio del Toro, plays Daniel Kaluuya's father in this. He's a cop.
Oh, the cop?
Yes. Yes, he was.
That's his dad? I didn't realize it. I only watched the first episode.
Yes, yes. You know what? Yes, yes. Spoiler alert. Sorry, but
You just spoiled it
yeah,
for me.
I spoiled a 13-year-old series for you. My bad. But it's a good fun series. It really is. And like I said, it's only 6 episodes. But this and the boys are really the only 2 things that I'm watching right now. So that's it.
All right. Let's see. Damon says, I like all those people you named, but you got me hooked at Natalie Dormer. I'll check it out for sure.
And she's naked in several episodes.
That I did not know. I didn't get to that part.
Yep. Oh, if
Dark
you watch,
Matters.
what was that show that I mentioned? Lucifer. The guy from Lucifer is in this as well. If you watched him like Lucifer, he's in it.
Played Natalie Dormer's character's husband, so to speak.
Yep.
All right, fellas. Ladies and gentlemen, we are tired.
Thank you guys
We've
for
been on
joining
for
us.
2 hours.
Yep. We didn't
Thank you.
mention
If you have not done so already, please hit the like button. Subscribe to our channel. Those who are new to the channel here, if you like what you saw, just hit the subscribe button so you know when we come on again. And please, everyone who watches this, please hit the like button. We've got about 50 people watching us right now, which means we should have no less than 50 likes right now. It really helps us out. It costs you nothing, but it helps our algorithm so we can try and grow the channel and keep this thing going. It's just a simple request. Just hit the like button as you're watching this right now. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
Oh, we have a couple questions here. Thank you, guys. See you later. Damon says Lucifer's name is Tom Ellis.
Yep.
Thanks for your time. Always fun here. Thank you for joining us. Dimitri, another great show, fellas. Thank you for all you do, fam. Appreciate it. Black Panther says like. Thank you. Please, everyone, like the video as you're watching it right now. So, Mark, you have anything else?
No, that was it. Just thanks everybody for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
I can't even find the closing thing. All right, well, it's fine. I'll come up with something. Black Comic Lords, we got you.